Hello there. I'm back to the kayak project here. Been away for a while. Had paying work to do and holiday stuff, and a lot of things kept me from it. But I want to give you a little tour of. I did work on it here and there for what little time I had in between gigs on doing other things. Give you a little update. I think where we left off last time, I had put the last coat of the resin on it, and it didn't come out nearly as smooth as I had expected, like it did on the lid that we did. The lid here, lid came out kind of nice, actually. It's beautiful. That's topside urethane paint that I put on it. Now I was hoping I would get the same finish on here, but I didn't. So what I have to do is I have to put a filler in here, and I'm going to use a regular automotive Bondo on it, because like I said, on a boat that's going to stay in the water for a long time, you would want to use like Interlux or Marine Tex as your basically like a boat Bondo that you screed on there to fill all, to level the whole thing, and then sand it all off. But since this is a kayak that you'd use for a few hours and then put away every single day, it's not going to sit in the water for long periods of time. Bondo is an acceptable product to use on it. I'm going to disconnect the camera from the tripod and just show you around a little bit. And today what I'm going to be doing is after the tour, I'm going to sand a lot. Been researching sandpaper, because the sandpapers that I've been using for many years that worked out really well aren't so great for this epoxy. It tends to gum up, and I go through a lot of it. And if you're doing this for a living, which I'm trying to do, you want to cut your costs. So I did some research, got some different sandpaper, and today I'm going to find out how it goes. We'll have a little discussion about that later. So this here is a kayak as it stands right now. Has all the fiberglass and resin on it that I'm going to put on the bottom anyway. I haven't even touched the top yet. And it's good and strong. Gonna have to get some flash pictures of where I started. It was in pretty bad shape. I don't know if you've been following these videos. I don't even know where we are. Is this number 6 or 7? I'm not sure. But this is what we look like. We're finally done with all the epoxy resin and fiberglass on the corners and things like that. And it's not bad. I mean, for your own purposes, it's plenty strong and sealed up. You could easily just paint right over this and use it. But I'm trying to restore this kayak and get it to a point where I can sell it. So I want to make sure it looks really super nice, so I can put it on a trailer, bring it down to the lake, and use it myself with a for sale sign and get some interest. So here's where I left off. I don't know if you see all those little wrinkles and bumps right there. That's what you get with that last coat. I was expecting better, but I guess this is what it is. And so what I did is I sanded all of this here, the gray area, and then when I got it down to where it was almost all gone, I screeded Bondo over it. And I haven't finished sanded it, but you can see the difference right away. How it just fills in all the lows and smooths it over. It's going to make it for a nice paint job. Over here, what I did was first I tried to put the urethane paint right on it, because that's a pretty thick paint and it's self-leveling. And it kind of did okay, but it wasn't up to the spec I wanted. I wasn't satisfied with it, so I resanded it to score it up, and I put Bondo over it, and that made a world of difference. So I'm going to sand this again today, but I'm kind of happy with the result there. So eventually the whole boat is going to be that Bondo color. Hopefully by the end of today, we'll see. Tends to get kind of toxic in here after a while, and I don't have an air cleaner, so I go away for a while, let the air settle, let the product dry, and come back to it. The bow sections, this is the stern, actually came out pretty good. That's been a struggle all along. I keep mentioning it, but I think I did all right. there aren't any cracks or bubbles or anything like that in there. More than acceptable. Can't wait to turn it over and start working there and get the top side looking really nice. It's going to be a pretty boat. Hardly know it looking at it now, but it will be, I promise. So I'm going to get to work. Okay, so here's the deal. Belt sander. Never liked belt sanders that much. That's why I have a cheap one. It's over there somewhere. It's just an old Craftsman 21-inch. That was somewhat useful. As you can see, some of this surface here, see how it took off the high spots? Was good for that. But if you kept it in place too long, which I did a couple of times, you can see it started to melt and chip off stuff that I wanted to leave on there. Left an edge right there that I had smoothed out with the epoxy. So I'm gonna have to Bondo over that. I can fix it, I'll feather it, and it'll be fine. So my recommendation, if you want to do this on this kind of polyester resin material, is use the belt sander. And I think that is 50 grit that I have in there to get off. You can see how it flattens out those really thick high spots right there. It tends to gum up the paper, but it takes that off and it smashes some of it down into the crack. And that minimizes the amount of Bondo you're going to use on the product, or interlux, whatever filler material you choose to have. But just go over it a few times. Don't stand there and dwell like I did, or else you wind up with chunky stuff like that. So I'll make the mistakes for you. I'll show you what they are, then you don't have to make those. That's what this is all about, actually. I haven't worked on this kind of material in this depth for quite a few years, so I'm just getting in touch with it. And the polyester resin is new to me too, so I'm learning all about that. It tends to be a little softer and it melts at a lower temperature, so you have to learn to work with it. It's like anything else. It has its predilections. So then I went over it, I don't know if you saw, with the palm sander. And that's what the palm sander did to it. Even though you can see this, when you run your hand on it, you don't feel it. All that's left is the stuff that filled in all those little tiny cracks. See all this funny stuff over here? When you get all done, it looks like that. You filled in these areas, and it's even with the top of these high spots right there. Sort of like filling in wood grain too. Similar thing. So this is just about done. I have a few spots. You got to use your hands on it. You can do this now when it's at this stage. If you try to use your hands when it's just fiberglass and stuff, you better be really careful, because the fiberglass can poke right through your skin and it really hurts. And it's there for days too. You think you got it all and you find out there's a piece there. So I have just a few spots like this where I can feel with my fingers that there's a little bit of a dip. Some people probably wouldn't care, but I want that to be perfect, because like I say, I'm selling this to somebody. I want them to be really happy with it. And same thing over here. See how it filled in? Once I sanded off the high spots of the Bondo, it may look funny, but when you run your hand on there, that's perfectly smooth. The Bondo just stays inside the low areas and sands off in the high spots. This I got to work around. This is there's a foot stretcher inside there that you put your feet on, and that's a bolt, a through bolt that goes through there. So I'm going to have to work that by hand with a little bit of the Bondo and smooth it and play with it. I don't want to take it apart, because that's put in there before the top is put on it, and it's kind of far up there from there. Very, very hard to reach that. If it comes off, putting it back on, it's doable, but it's kind of a bear of a thing, and I don't really want to get involved in it. And I got some chunky spots right here. I have to fill that. So the recommendation is use the belt sander with 50 grit, 60 or 80, whatever you think is appropriate for what roughness you have.